Paranormal.
Welcome to Radio Paranormal.
We look so bright and chipper, don't we?
Like, it is so dark in my studio, and I'm just gonna have to apologize right now. My eyes are so sensitive to light today for some reason that even my monitor is killing me. So if I'm a little less talkity while I'm producing in the background, that's why. But I don't think I'm gonna have to talk much though, because we have an amazing guest, and I get the privilege to call him my friend. We have dealt with each other for several years, and I'm going to tell you what, he's an amazing man.
He is.
But first, let's pay some bills. Let's talk about this New Orleans Paracon thing that may or may not be happening. What's the whole big deal about this thing?
So, New Orleans Paracon, July 31st through August 2nd, at the Astor Crown Plaza in the French Quarter. It's an educational based Paracon. You can meet and greet your celebrity friends, and that's great and always fun. But this is how to make you a better investigator, how to protect yourself, how to develop your gifts and abilities. Do you have any? And the do you have any actually is going to be one of the classes that our guest is teaching. And we just announced our newest speaker, who is Father Sebastian.
Father Sebastian.
Yes. So we're
The
super
rock
excited.
star.
I mean, really. So who else could you get to talk about vampires than that guy? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, the only way to top it is if you got Blade. That's the only thing I can think that could top it.
So if I put the link to book, we are halfway sold out of the top 2 packages. So there's only 5 of each left. There's only 5 Patty Negri experiences, which also includes our guest tonight. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. So it's an add-on per person where you get to spend a weekend with our guest and Patty. Super excited, but the base prices for all the packages are per couple. If you are a single and want pricing, give us an email. There's a contact us, info@neworleansparacon.com. We can get you the single pricing if you need it. That just came up.
Send us a message, and then we'll just tell you to stop being so lonely and go find somebody and bring them to the Paracon.
There you go. There you go. So anything that you guys have questions about, any issues, the classes are changing a little bit up in like the best way, you know, adding Father Sebastian was one of the best things. And so yeah, book. And I you know what? There are some classes. I don't want to play favorites about our speakers. And it's not that they're my favorite. It's just there are certain speakers that are talking about things that even I struggled with for a long time. Finding out I had abilities in 2018. And I live in the French Quarter of New Orleans, man. You think you couldn't swing a dead cat around and not find a mentor, and I couldn't.
Why's the cat got to be dead when you swing it? I mean, it's always...
Because
like,
you don't want to get scratched
like
or
the
bit.
worst. Like, people are like, well, you know, when you drop a cat, it lands on its feet. And when you drop buttered toast, it lands buttered side down. So what happens if you put buttered toast on a cat? Does it spin? I mean, the cat's the worst.
I've got a cat we could try it on. He'd be like, yeah, let's do it. He's a little daredevil.
Yeah. Isn't your cat 212 pounds?
That's one of them. I own Garfield, but I have a little black cat who's just a daredevil and like, yeah, let's try it, Mom. So yeah, he'd do it.
Of daredevils.
Yeah.
Shall we introduce our next guest? Because I kind of want to. We need all the time that we can get. We do. Is everywhere.
So landing the plane or is getting at. It took me a long time to find mentors because I did not know what my abilities were. No idea. I just knew I could do some things. Right. Found a mentor and worked with him, the 2 gentlemen, for a while. And so if you're like me and you just want to find out, I'm not sure what I do. I'm not sure what I can identify. This guy He's going to be teaching a class called Discovering the Eight Clairs. What am I? Which one am I? And so our guest tonight is Sam Baltrusis. He's author of, yes, I know, very much so, author of Ghosts of Salem, Haunts of the Witch City, and featured in The Curse of Lizzie Borden Shock Doc. He's penned 20 paranormal themed books, including Haunted Castles of New England and Ghosts of Sleepy Hollow, and it's been on a bunch of freaking TV shows. And as a matter of fact, we both have one we were on with the girls from Canada. We have a connection there.
Yeah, History's Most Haunted. Is that's what it was called, right?
Yeah. Yep. So we both got to be on that season, so that was kind of cool. So welcome.
It was a really good show. Yeah.
And aren't those girls were amazing?
Oh yeah.
They were so sweet. I just love them. So how are you?
I'm doing well. So I just got back from Miami. I finished my book on Lizzie Borden. That's I had to write in 3 months. So I know, right? Like, so my publisher's like, hey, we really want this book. We want it in in 3 months. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So first time since my first book that I've written a book in 3 months. And then right at the last hour, Boston got hit by a blizzard. Right. So I'm sitting there, finishing my book. The blizzard's happening around me.
You're becoming a snowman.
Yeah, and then I was just like, you know what? This is sort of like, I'm like, this is the last straw. So I hopped in a plane as soon as I could, and I went to Miami for a couple of days just to kind of like get away from the snow, just to relax. And I feel so much better. Oh my gosh, I feel good.
Well, you're talking about that blizzard and writing a book. That's almost like the plot of The Shining there for a little bit. I'm glad you got away before the two little twins came up and asked you to play. It's crazy. Yeah,
I work at a haunted hotel, and I was finishing it at the haunted hotel, and we have ghost kids. They're not wearing matching outfits. It's not the Grady twins from The Shining, but they're kind of close. And they play in the elevators. So I kind of had the Shining experience, definitely.
Nice. Nice.
So tell us about this new book. Now, you're a relative of Lizzie Borden, is that correct?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, so a distant relative. So it's my mother did genealogical research, and I'm from Pensacola, Florida. So I ended up here in the 90s going to college, and I just felt called to New England. I didn't necessarily feel like I didn't think I had any family, so I just felt called to New England in the 90s. My mother, after I've written probably about 10 books, and I've written books about Lizzie Borden, written books about Salem, she did Ancestry.com, and she found out that our family, which we didn't know very much about, was originally from Portsmouth, Rhode Island, and that my great-great-grandfather is connected to Lizzie Borden, the Borden family, the Putnam family, who were major accusers in the Salem witch trials. And my world flipped upside down. So everything that I have been writing about and have been studying and focusing on for the past 13, 14 years, I'm related to them. And also I'm related to the bad guys. So that it was shocking. It was not shocking, but also made my life make complete sense. So it's kind of like a full circle moment for me, and a realization that this path that I'm on was almost like it was fated. It was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of makes sense. You were saying that you had that drawing kind of up to go, out of Florida and go up. I get the same thing kind of when I'm in the mountains. That's where my people are from. But I get the same calling, and I don't feel like I'm at home until I get to, the mountains. So is it the same with you? Like you never felt like you were at home until you just finally one day arrived and.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up on the beach in Florida. So like I grew up, I was hot. I never really felt like I fit in. In fact, so my ancestors are from Portsmouth, Rhode Island, which is right by Newport, Rhode Island. So growing up in my room, instead of having like Duran Duran posters, I had a poster of Newport, Rhode Island. And so I have no idea like what my draw or my pull was. but now I do, and so it makes complete sense.
Well, that's good. And then with all the connections and the family connection, like you said with your books, it's almost like you get the insider look, but into like the Lizzie Borden family, or it's almost like you have a little bit of maybe a behind the scenes look.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, so I with Lizzie Borden specifically, I always kind of viewed her as a caricature. So I always kind of viewed her as, and I was kind of scared of her, scared of her, like her spirit, or scared of her as a person, because the way that she's portrayed in pop culture is this sort of cold-blooded
Right.
woman who killed her father Andrew Borden, and her stepmother Abby Borden, and I didn't like, it was that caricature that I always thought of, but I had recurring dreams for years before I actually visited the house. In fact, I was a journalist for many years, and I wrote for Newsweek magazine. My first article for Newsweek magazine was on the Lizzie Borden bed and breakfast turning into the house turning into a bed and breakfast, and so I wrote about that in the 90s. And so insider, yes. Sort of like, do I feel like that I'm special because I'm related to her? No. I think there's a lot of people that are related to her, but I do feel like that there's pressure to exonerate her. And I know that sounds weird, but I feel like there's something about Lizzie that my opinion has changed about her since I first started. And this really kind of took place like when I did the show Curse to Lizzie Borden with Dave Schrader and Chris Fleming. My life changed. It was I was brought in as a historian and as a family member, and then I kind of came out of the crystal closet as the medium on the show with Chris Fleming,
Oh my
to my
gosh.
left, and then Dave Schrader to my right.
Wow.
And so it was not planned, and it kind of changed my whole world. So in many ways, Lizzie Borden changed my life, coupled with people like Dave Schrader and Chris Fleming. And that show, everyone's like, because it was dramatic. So people are like, did that really happen? It really did happen. And for people that didn't see it, we did a seance at the very end. Dave Schrader was taken over, and there's been, I've had people say that, was that legit? It was 100% legit. What happened in that room and what was filmed on camera completely happened. My chin dropped. If you look at my reaction, unless Dave is a really good actor, that what happened, and it was terrifying and it was beautiful at the same time.
Wow. So just to get some of our viewers up to speed, because I think some of us only know bits and pieces, Lizzie Borden, axe murder, family done, right?
Yeah.
So give us like the summary of what people think, and then tell us some stuff that's not true.
And before we let that go, I think you just said the title of your next book and didn't realize it. Lizzie Borden changed my life. Please write that book.
Yeah.
That would be an amazing book.
I want to address. So Joanne just posted saying, "I seen you get so emotional on that one." I was emotional, but I also was channeling somebody. So if you are a medium, and Jennifer, I know that you are, and you and I have worked together before in media as mediums in New Orleans, and I feel like that you're very gifted. But you and I both doubt ourselves, so we're kind of like both caught up in our self-doubt. But I was emotional, but it wasn't my emotion; it was Eliza Borden's emotion. And so I was emotional for her, and she used me as a vessel to communicate her story. She killed her children. And so, of course it's going to appear like, I was like, I was out when I was channeling, and I saw it on camera, and I'm like, oh my God, that's like the ugliest cry.
Not the ugly cry.
And it was definitely like, but it was so cathartic for Eliza, who I never channeled before. I didn't even interact with her. I didn't interact with the two children, Holder and Eliza, who's the little baby. And there was a third girl, and I think the third girl is Maria. That was the other sister who didn't actually die in the well. She ended up living into her 60s or 70s, but she's buried by her brother and sister and her mom. So I think it is Maria, but Maria as a child. But so long story short, the book is so it's not just about Lizzie Borden. It's basically about the family curse, and I'm using air quotes for that because I do feel like that if you look at our lineage, and it's shocking who we're all related to, and it's not that I'm related to them, it's that Lizzie Borden is related to all these other people, including Sarah Maria Cornell, who was she was murdered by Reverend Ephraim Avery, and then there was also Eliza Borden, who killed her 2 children right next door to the Lizzie Borden house 44 years before the axe murders happened in 1892. And then there's Eileen Warnos that we're related to, who was a serial killer in Florida. And there's also Marilyn Monroe. But so for those who don't know what happened, 1892, there was a horrific homicide in the morning of August 4th, 1892, in Fall River, Massachusetts. It was at 92 2nd Street in a not so, it's kind of like the rough and tough neighborhood in Fall River. However, they were extremely wealthy. So the Borden family were extremely wealthy, living in a not so great neighborhood. Lizzie Borden was accused. She was questioned right after the murders. It was only her and the maid Bridget Sullivan who were in the house when the murders took place. However, there were other family members that were at the house, but that not while the murders took place, like John Morse, who is Lizzie Borden's uncle, maternal uncle. So it's not Abby's brother, but the mother, Sarah Morse, Sarah Morse Borden, who died when Lizzie was a child. Emma Borden was in Fairhaven. That's Lizzie Borden's sister. And Bridget was upstairs taking a nap when the murders took place. So there's a lot to there's a lot of reasons why people thought that she was the one that actually committed the murders, because she was the only one in the house. However, she swore that she didn't murder them, and she was brought in, and she was ultimately acquitted. It was the trial of the century. The trial was held in New Bedford, which is close to Fall River, and she was ultimately acquitted. And then she came back, but the trial was so huge that the whole nation was captivated with the story, and she was accused of. Even though she was acquitted, the public basically thought she did it. And so there was a lot of ridicule. There was a rhyme. Lizzie Borden took an axe, gave her father 40 whacks. And then when she wasn't done, she gave her mother 41. And those of the whacks were actually a little bit more than what really, the amounts were like tripled what they actually really were. And it was a hatchet and not an axe. So she spent the rest of her life she stayed in Fall River. She moved to a house called Maplecroft, which is absolutely beautiful. I was able to investigate that house multiple times, including while I was on the show with Dave Schrader and Chris Fleming, The Curse of Lizzie Borden. It's now a private residence, so you can't go in the house, but back when it was available, it was amazing, and I highly would recommend it. And I think that's where her spirit is. It's not at the murder house. My family was murdered in a house, I'm not going to stay at the murder house. I'm going to stay at the house that I loved. So after filming the show, so the producers told me to say this one question: Lizzie, did you kill your father and your stepmother? And I did not want to ask that question. I swore I wouldn't, because I have a relationship with her, and I asked it on my recorder, and this is not on the show. This happened actually after. It's called a pickup, so they wanted me to add it later, and it was supposed to be added to the show because I wouldn't say it during the show, and so I say it on the recording. I heard a blood curdling scream, like, "Stop asking me that." So after filming that show, I have heard that same scream for years. The scream won't go away. So my passion has been to somehow exonerate this woman who I'm related to distantly, who I was 100% convinced that she did commit the murders. However, if you watch the show, our theory is that she was taken over by a dark entity, like almost like a family harbinger or like a entity that took her over. And I still kind of that is a kind of it's kind of an extreme theory, so it's kind of hard to prove that she was possessed, if you will. But a lot of the people that are in our family line have been possessed, like and myself included. I had an attachment that nearly killed me, and it had to be removed by a shaman. So I do feel like that I channel. So if you watch the show, I was completely taken over by Eliza Borden. So if I can be taken over by a distressed spirit, so could Lizzie Borden.
Hi, Mom.
Sorry. Hi, Mom. There's Mom.
There's Mom.
We love Mom. Let me ask you this, Sam. So who do you think's at the church?
Who do I think what?
So the church that Lizzie went to, when the Sunday school and all. I've never been there. I've never investigated, but I heard somebody say that there's a female spirit at the church. And some people say it's Lizzie. Some people say it's somebody else. What do you think?
Yeah, so the church is called the Abbey. It's now called the Abbey. It was a restaurant. I'm friends with the owner of the location, and he's actually trying to sell it right now. But yeah, so what's interesting about that? So after I did the show, there is a church bulletin that I found after filming the show that said Miss Lizzie Borden her hands were put into, like, she was doing dishes or putting away dishes. A dumbwaiter fell on her hands and literally broke her wrist in July before the murders. So the murders happened in August 4th, 1892. The damage to her wrist happened in late June, early July. I'm not sure, I forget exactly the dates, but it was a couple of weeks before the murders. So that wasn't something that's fairly new. So if you had wrists that were almost, damaged, it was so damaged they thought they were broken, but they weren't broken. So I do feel like that she considered herself a good girl. When I say she considered herself a good girl, she taught Sunday school. She was very devout. She put up a facade that she was very much a giving, loving person. Now, was that her true nature? I'm not sure. I mean, my interaction with her spirit she's been very sassy with me. So almost kind of like, not like I love Jesus. She's kind of like more sassy with a little bit of a raunchy sense of humor. But I do feel like that she could be haunting the church. That would make sense. That was very much her story. So when I was at Maplecroft, she actually, I was communicating with her. This is not on camera. This was just between me and her and I. And she was like, Bertha Manchester. So there was a woman, Bertha Manchester, who was killed on June 1st, 1893, in the same way that her Abby and Andrew Borden were murdered. And to me, the murders are very similar. Like, it was done with a hatchet. It could have been someone that came off the streets that killed Bertha Manchester. And she told me, I didn't know much about Bertha Manchester, but now I do, because I've written a book about it. And my theory now has gone, and this is a kind of like a tangent, like a theory that people will probably kind of in other words, I let other people come up with theories that what really did happen, and I'm actually convinced that this could have happened. There's a man named William Borden, and William Borden was supposedly the illegitimate son of Andrew Borden, and he was a real person. So William Borden was actually part of the Borden family, kind of the black sheep of the Borden family. He spent his life in the neighborhood, and so he was in the Hill, which is the more affluent section. That's where Maplecroft is, and he was in a mental asylum, and he ultimately committed suicide after the murders of the Borden family murders, and also Bertha Manchester. And I mean, now that I have done all the research, I had, not only did I do a lot of research, but I actually had someone who was a Borden historian. And she basically had years and years of research in a box, or several boxes. It's about 4 boxes of material that when she passed away, she gave them to me. I have no idea why she gave them to me. I never met this woman, but she gifted it to me. Like, that was her like kind of like dying wish to give me this research. And I'm forever grateful for it, because it was good. I mean, she had some good stuff, and she believed Lizzie was innocent.
I mean, let's just compare. So today's news, you can't trust.
Right.
So, I mean, was it the same back then? I mean, could it have been, let's sensationalize something? I mean, I don't know. Every time I think about it, I always get the feeling that I don't think Lizzie did it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a journalist, so I personally, I have different opinions on that. I don't think all the news is fake. But I personally, having worked for the newsrooms for Newsweek, for ABC, I even worked for Fox News for a while too. Between you and me, so I know what happens in the newsroom, and a lot of it is based on fact. However, I do think that there is bias, and I do think you and I would agree on that, Brandon. I think
there we go. Yeah,
there was definitely a misogynistic bias toward women. And both good and bad. I mean, there was the general consensus back in 1892 that a woman, like a small-framed woman who was 32 years old, who had broken wrists, which hurt wrists, that there's no way in hell that she could have committed those murders. And but there's also, if you read all the newspaper articles, there was definitely a misogynistic bias toward her. In fact, there was a quote from the police chief saying, "Well, this is what it was so crazy that only a woman could have done it."
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, things like that. So there was there's no way in hell she could have done it because she was a woman, and there was that she absolutely did it because she is a woman and she's crazy. And so there was this kind of like weird bias in the press going on. And there was a story that was written in October after the murders that was so far-fetched. It was like that Lizzie was pregnant. She told her dad, and the dad
I've heard that. Yeah.
And then she killed Andrew. All this crazy stuff that was completely fabricated. And it really made Lizzie kind of like slut shamed Lizzie Borden, like making her this like, this woman that had a baby, was pregnant, and she wasn't pregnant. And that was completely fabricated by the press.
And see, I'm glad that you said the word bias. Fake was not the correct word that I was looking for. So I'm so glad you said that there is a bias, because I mean, there is. And I don't know much about her father or her uncle or anything, but I mean, were they church men? Were they, because back then men would cover up for men. And,
but you also said her dad had money, right? Her family had money.
Yeah, her dad was like, he was rich. I mean, he was like super rich, very frugal. He was also not liked by the community. So
that's what I was where I was going. Sometimes you get that successful, you do get some people who don't like you.
And there was a whole line of people that thought that he was a bad person. And in fact, there's stuff that she said that like the day before the murder, she went to her friend Alice Russell, and she was like, I think that someone's going to hurt Dad, or hurt my father, and because there was, I mean, they all knew that people were really pissed at Andrew Borden. There was a lot of he was so frugal with money that he wouldn't pay people. He would nickel and dime people. So there was definitely an animosity towards Andrew Borden in the community. And I'm sure many people, when he was murdered, they were like, they weren't surprised. They were sort of like, this guy, he wasn't well liked in the community.
Right.
However, Lizzie was, I was going to say, was she well liked? She definitely was philanthropic. So she did volunteer at the church. She also, she wanted to be part of the upper crust. She felt like she deserved to be part of the upper crust. So a lot of her family, the other Borden family members, were living in the Highlands, which is the rich neighborhood, and they were in the poor neighborhood. So she always kind of felt slighted by that. Like she wanted to, she felt like that she belonged in the upper crust. So there was that kind of weird, animosity going on with her. In my book, so I try my best to be as non-biased as possible because I am related to her. So, and I have a family bias because I feel like that I'm trying to exonerate my cousin, So right. I had Rebecca F. Pittman, who is a great writer, who thinks that Lizzie Borden was a sociopath and that she planned everything. It was like really premeditated. And Rebecca's argument is very compelling. I mean, it was like, oh my God. And so I went from, thinking that wanting to exonerate her to being 100% convinced that she did commit the murders to at the last hour, thinking that maybe thanks to Troy Taylor, who believes that maybe this William Borden was the potential killer, thinking that maybe she was definitely not innocent, but she didn't actually hold the hatchet and kill Abby and Andrew.
Right.
The theory is that perhaps this other person, William Borden, or maybe another outside assailant, killed the family.
Yeah, and I love how you put this, Sam, because I see so many people write stories about New Orleans and different things like the Axeman or Delphine Lalaurie, and the way they write is that everyone else is wrong and this is fact. And I love how you put this, that it's just your theory, but you have a lot of support and evidence behind, okay, this is what I'm thinking, this is what and I love how you put it that way, because it makes you more real. It makes you more, to me, it makes you more like a trusted source, or someone that I would go, you know what, he's not sure, but boy, he's really putting out there, but he's not saying I'm right and no one else is wrong and no one else is, you know what I mean? That's what I like about how you talk about these things.
And that I got that from journalism. So
yeah.
I know like that. I mean, I view journalism as sacred. I really do. Yeah. And so like when I was trained in college to be a journalist, yes, it's always there's going to be a bias there, but it's really important to be as objective as possible. And so that's how I was trained. Now I am definitely old school. I think a lot of the new journalism is definitely skewed. So and it's heartbreaking because I was in the business for 20 years and
right.
And then I started writing books, and it's funny. I went from hard news to writing paranormal history books.
Haunty things.
Yeah, I know.
Haunty things. And you're going to be teaching a class at the Paracon about writing.
Now this I'm excited about, this class.
Yeah.
By the way, so I am so excited about the New Orleans Paracon, and the part that I'm so excited about is the programming. I think the programming is brilliant, and I do Paracons all over the country. But the classes that I'm doing and other people are doing at New Orleans Paracon are just amazing. So yes, I'm teaching a paranormal writing course. I'm calling it Ghost Writers. And this is people that want to write about the paranormal. In addition to writing books, I curate a anthology called Haunted Travels Anthology. And in fact, when I met up with Jennifer and Chris in New Orleans, I was working on a story for that anthology. So the goal is for people who take the class in New Orleans is to get published in my anthology or in other publications like Haunted Magazine or online on a blog. There's many ways to publish. And some of my students actually have published books. So that would be, if you publish a book, I'm like, yay. We'll throw a party for you if you publish a book. And it's possible. My friend Angela Artuso has written 2 books, and she was part of Ghostwriters.
Oh, fun.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah,
I'm-
that'll be something fun for people to learn who are interested in. And you know, it's such a paranormal is such a popular interest and hobby for people. I know there's a lot of people out there that want to learn how to document it and even write online books or publish books, you know, in hard copy. So
Well,
it's
and
really
I never
cool.
thought about a class like that, about how to write
Yeah,
on the paranormal. I mean, that's genius.
yeah,
So,
unique,
right.
and
And
that's
it's
why we love Sam.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm excited about it because I feel like that I will be honest with you. So even though I have, I'm a medium and I've done work on television as a medium. I'm also there's a skeptic side to me too. And so even though a lot of what I do is definitely, probably people think of that I'm all 100% woo woo. Well, I'm not. I try to I try to debunk what I'm doing, but I do say that, like I do television. My whole goal for the television shows is to give them a history lesson. So
Mhm.
the whole like woo woo me like being a medium, my ultimate like kind of like underlying motivation is to expose them to history. So whether it's the Salem witch trials or the
Yeah.
Lizzie Borden murders in 1892. My whole goal, the underlying motivation, really is to give them a history lesson. So that's what I want to do with my books too. The ghosts lure you in, but then we kind of get them with the history.
Yeah. And you're going to
Makes
be
sense.
teaching the discovering your 8 clairs, and something that I think that a lot of people don't understand with mediumship, and you were mentioning with channeling, is that you don't remember. You do not remember many of the things because they aren't yours. And I love how you brought that up, because you don't know. You don't remember.
Yeah, so when I was channeling and Curse of Lizzie Borden, that was not planned, by the way. And
Yeah.
so I was sitting next to Dave Schrader. Chris was like to my right. So before the cameras were rolling, Chris Fleming, who I never met before, his father Reggie walks into the room. So I'm clairvoyant, so I actually see, and I'm like, "There's a gentleman named Reggie, and he's saying that Chris, that your mother, there's something wrong with your mother. Like you need to check on your mother." And turns out Chris's mother was actually was on the floor for almost 2 days. She fell down. She had like a broken
Oh
hip.
no.
And so she was on the floor when I got this message. So I'm not saying I saved his mother's life, but she was on the floor for a long time. And
Wow.
yeah,
That's not
so
good.
that was before cameras rolled. Now they did film it. They did put it in some other different. It just didn't fit into the narrative of the story. But Chris called immediately after we filmed that, and he found out that his mother was not doing well and was rushed to the hospital.
Yeah.
Oh my
So
gosh.
so Chris Fleming and I are always bonded by that moment. Like
Yeah.
that, because I'm like, "Who is Reggie?" And he's like, "That's my father." And I'm like, "Reggie's saying that your mother, you need to check on your mother right now." And
Isn't it interesting though? Because Chris is a medium too.
oh, he is, yeah.
And it's interesting, and maybe you've run across this too, how other people have to give us information from our own family members sometimes.
Yeah, and that's the case with me because my biological father, so since then, so he was alive when I filmed that show.
Yeah.
He's passed away, and guess who's giving me messages from my father, Chris Fleming. So it's kind of like, so it's sort of like a back and forth. And my dad, so Chris is in Chicago, the Chicago area, and my dad's in Chicago, so he likes. And my friend Heidi Kemper,
Yeah.
my biological father loves her. Like
She's
loves her.
awesome.
So when I work with Heidi, he's always like hitting on Heidi, My dad. I'm like, "Dad, like let it go, dude." So yeah, you're right. Like I do feel like that. I like I don't necessarily. I'm not ready to talk to him. You know what I mean? And certain people, especially family members, you're so close to them. And my dad and I had a pretty tumultuous relationship. However, I do love him, and I do want him to find postmortem peace. And so Heidi has worked with him, and other people have worked with him as well. He just wants to help me on investigations, but my dad is the type when he tries to help out, that he kind of gets in the way. Like for example, I was at the Shanley Hotel with John Zappis was there, who I love dearly.
Oh, he's great.
And so John and I were sitting there, and there's a spirit box. And my dad, this is like 2 months after my dad passed, and I hear this voice. He's like, Sammy. And I'm like, oh my God, that's my father. And John Zappis is to my right. And so, and I'm like, what, Dad? What? And he's like, chicken butt. And I'm like, and that's my dad would say that. So, and he's with me right now. But so John Zappis is like, I think he just said chicken butt, Sam. And I'm like, he did. He said chicken butt.
It's hilarious. I love that.
I was kind of embarrassed. I'm kind of getting red now talking about it, but I mean, I love John. So if it's going to be with anybody, it should be with John Zappis.
And he has such a great sense of humor. So John's dying. So it's great. We talked to him a few weeks ago, and I about cried a couple times. We were laughing so hard. He was so funny.
He really is, and he's always like, I've known him for years, and he's always been, when other people, the community could be so backstabby, but he's never been like that to me at all. He's always been like on my side, supported me, and like comes up to me when other people don't. So I really view him in a very, very positive way.
He seems like too much of a straight shooter to backstab anyone, because if you need to know it, he's going to say it to your face. You know what I mean? I just think he's too direct.
Yeah, and you're right. Like, he's the type of person, if you do something wrong, he will tell you. So if he gets upset, that you did something wrong.
Yeah.
And so I try my best. For me, like my passion is never not to get involved with the drama. My passion really is to tell the stories of historical stories, but also the stories of these spirits that we encounter out in the field, to give a voice to those without a voice. That is my passion.
Yep.
So I don't care about this other stuff with the living. I care about my ghost friends, and telling their story correctly.
And that's sometimes, you get these gifts like we have, it is a gift, and it is, to me, the way we use it says everything about us. Are we helping, or are we asking them to perform? What are we doing? Right now, you have Mass Paracon. You have something coming up before us, right?
No, it's October 2nd through the 4th.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's after. And it's funny because a lot of the people that are lined up for the New Orleans Paracon, because I've done Mass Paracon for 7 years. So the same people that are going to be part of the New Orleans Paracon, a lot of them are regulars at Mass Paracon. But that's a good thing, because I love these people. So like John Zappis, Patty Negri, these people. I know I don't have Father Sebastian, so that is a major coup for the New Orleans Paracon. But I've also, similar to New Orleans Paracon, I really want to emphasize the programming. Like, that to me is really important. And when you guys kind of pitched it to me and said, this is what we want to do, I'm like, absolutely. And I also love New Orleans. So it was a perfect fit.
Yeah. And, not everyone can make it to New Orleans. Sometimes it's easier for them to get on the East Coast. So to have, I just hope that the direction of Paracons are going to go to how we're both doing ours, more educational, things like that. Because that's, I think sometimes people don't think they need it, but they need it. They do.
Well,
the
biggest thing is all these new people that are coming in. They need the opportunity to learn from those of us that have been there, done that, got the t-shirt, before they learn from somebody that has absolutely no idea what the F they're doing, and get, and they get messed up. Yeah. Ghost hunting, paranormal investigating is fun. We enjoy it, but it's dangerous.
It is. And all three of us have had dark things attached to us that we have had to have removed. But all three of us have had it.
Yep.
So for people to think that stuff, it is rare. We just won that lotto. Let's be honest. But we also step into it every time we walk through the door of something we know, some place we know is haunted, for sure. So
I do feel like that, certain people, it's almost like that we were chosen to be possessed, if you will, or have an attachment. I have learned that how not to have that happen to me, but for many years it was pretty much very regular, and
Right.
and what I learned, the biggest lesson I learned was, and I actually got this from Johnny Zappis, but also from Richard Estep, is they wanted your fear. So it was feeding off my fear. So, and I was giving them so much energy and so much fear that they were coming back for more. I was like, they're like, I want some Sam, Sam energy.
Right.
And it kept coming back for more. And then
Don't
once I
we all?
stopped giving them that energy and that fear, they stopped bothering me. But now they're bothering my friends. So now I'm kind of like, I switched my roles to the one that's possessed to the one that protects people from being possessed.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's
It's funny how that happens.
and,
It's just
and you're going to be teaching people that too. You're going to be teaching people pre and post investigation clearing, because a lot of people that take up this hobby, I'll ask them, what do you do for protection? What do you mean? What do you do after? What do you do before? What do you mean? I'm like, what? What do you mean? What do I mean?
Exactly.
Why are you not doing anything?
And these are big people in the field. And I'm not going to name names, but I've interviewed people, I mean, in my books that you see on television. And I'm like, what do you use for protection? And they're like, I don't use protection. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, are you kidding me? And so we all three of us know what can happen.
Yeah.
And for me, like I was taken over. It was chronicled in the 100th episode of A Haunting. If you want to see like the darkest, time of my life, put it on a TV show.
Right.
But it really,
Why not?
Yeah. The thing is, the TV show really. My whole point of doing A Haunting was educational. So like I really wanted to say, listen, don't try this at home, kids. And for me, the way I got my attachment is I was doing a lecture in Salem at a place called Pierce Farm at Witch Hill. And I was channeling. This is before I knew I could channel. And I didn't push him out. And he was a murderer, so Richard Crowninshield. And I was telling his story. And he actually took me over. And so now I know how to push out. When I channel, I know how to push out. Back then, I didn't know how to do it. So I had him for 8 days. He wanted me dead. He first wanted me to drink alcohol, and I've been sober for 16 years. So I'm like, no. So he was like, okay, you're not going to drink, then I want you dead. So I had the attachment for 8 days, and a shaman, Michael Robichaud, actually did a removal. It was life-changing. I will say when we did the removal, that's when my abilities really, I've always had abilities, but that's when I was activated. And I don't know if that happened to you too, Jennifer, or something happened to you. Were you like activated after you had your attachment?
No, yes, in a different way. I was in the process of working on my stuff to figure out what it is I could do and what my gifts were. We haven't found anything I can't do yet.
Yeah, you're good. I mean, I worked with you. Yeah, I think you're really good.
Thank you. But what was interesting was after it was still kind of around me, but then my guardian angel came out as a protection, but allowing me to see messages from the demonic energy that had been around me. Like it was almost like the demonic was pleading its case, but the angel was there to say, it's okay, I have you, which was interesting. Like that's when I knew what my guardian angel looked like.
Right.
And I could see it. So that's what I got out of it. And it opened me up. I have physically scarred from it, from on my arm from it. So from that energy. So I see these people on our ghost hunts during the week, 6 nights a week. And some people say, oh, we want to go to the demon, da 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 da. Like, you don't.
No, you don't.
It's like you think you want this adrenaline rush, but you don't. I promise you. We've had 2 cases back to back with them. And then this energy a few years ago showed up and found me again and followed me on one of our investigations with the public. I had to end. I got people out. I'm like, guys, no, we're leaving now. They're like, what? And I said, I've only ended this twice. in 5 years, we're ending it now. It found me. So even though you get them removed, sometimes they're not leaving you alone. You're marked for a reason.
And this is why I'm so happy that the New Orleans Paracon is an educational one. So people can sit and learn from our mistakes, so they don't have to go through the physical pain and the mental agony and that accompanies such things. We've all been doing this a long time. So, our odds, we have made our odds much higher than the normal, hobbyist.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still there. There's still a chance. And that's why I'm just really, really happy that there's so many great classes to learn from, because I'd much rather you be prepared when you go out. And then if you get into a situation, hopefully you will have social networked and you've got you some people. That's another thing you should do at these Paracons. Connect with other people. Nobody is better than anybody else. I don't care how many TV shows you've been on or how many shows you have not been on. We are all in this for the same things.
Yep.
Trying to figure out. So, if you get a little, I don't know, fanboy or fangirl over somebody, okay, fine. Have your little 5 minutes and then go in. Like we all put our pants on the same way. We put, we all drink our coffee in the morning so we don't choke somebody. So.
Well, I mean, I agree with that. So when I first started, I didn't have that. I didn't have mentors. And the person that saved my life actually was Joni Mahan, who's a fellow author. And she and I did know her. She was the person I would go to, like, while I was writing my books. I'm like, Joni, like, this is happening. She's like, something's wrong with you, Sam. Like, and she basically pointed out that I had an attachment, brought in a shaman who saved my life. So now the tables have turned and now it's my turn. It's my turn to help other people. And I have. I mean, I definitely I help. Even with, I have a group called Spirit Squad, and Spirit Squad's a group of mediums. Yep. Some of them get in, I love them, but some of them get in trouble sometimes. I've trained them very well, but we all make mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes are like pretty bad, as in like allowing a spirit to take you over. And I'm like, no, you can't. You got to set them to the side. They cannot fully take you over. But it happened during an event at Wilson Castle. Actually, it wasn't my students. It was my friend Heidi Kemper was taken over by an elemental. And that's another class, kind of segue into a class that I'm New Orleans Paracon. But the elemental took her over, and then jumped from Heidi to two of my students. So it went from her to a male student to a female. And this little critter jumped from one person to the next. And, elementals are neither good nor bad, but they're like gremlins. They're little troublemakers, and you don't want them taking you over. But it was almost animalistic too. Like the Heidi became violent, and all three of them were when they were taken over. It was potentially violent, like violent as in like she was hitting the table and almost like grunting like an animal.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It was crazy.
So Sam, where can people find you? Where can they find your books and buy from you directly? Brandon is a huge proponent of buying directly from authors.
Yeah, look, I'll say my quick speech like I do every time. I hate Amazon. I don't like it. They don't pay their authors crap. So if you ever get a chance, an opportunity to buy directly from the author, that's what I recommend 100% of the time, because they get the money directly and your odds of getting a signed copy go way up.
So I agree with that, but I also, I have with my publisher, I actually, it's cheaper to get through Amazon, but I do agree with you on that. But I will have copies. So I do Paracons all over the country. So I'm going to bring as many books as possible to the New Orleans Paracon. So I'm really trying to push people that are watching this, either go to New Orleans Paracon or go to both, New Orleans Paracon, Mass Paracon, because I think that we are all on the same page as far as content. Absolutely love like the Native American panel that Brandon that you guys are doing. I that is so needed. I'm so glad you're doing that. And so events, you can get signed copies of my books. Some of them I have more copies than others. I will tell you, some books sell out like my Ghost of Salem book. Every time I bring it, it sells out like that. So
Wow.
you may have to go to Amazon. But
So and people
Right.
can book you for their events there too. Is that correct?
yeah, so you go to sambaltrusis.com. So I'm pretty much booked. So my goal in 2026 is to do one event a month. However, that's already changing.
It never sticks to the plan.
I know. And
Ah.
I mean I love to travel. So I definitely I love doing these events and I love going. I mean, I absolutely love New Orleans. Like when I visited during December, I had so much fun. And like if there's 1/10 of the fun that I had there happens at New Orleans Paracon, I'll be happy. So,
Yeah.
but I will say this: New Orleans is extremely potentially dangerous, guys. So, take my class, take Brandon's class, take Jennifer's and Christopher's class, because I feel like that. I will tell you, like when I saw you, Jennifer, in New Orleans, I was affected. I'm not going to say what affected me, but I was definitely affected by something I visited in New Orleans. So it's a darker energy that's very similar to Salem, but different.
It's heavy.
It really
And
is.
it's heavy and it's intense. That's the best. Those are the best ways I can describe it. And always when you go, if you go somewhere to investigate, visit a local shop, visit a
Yeah.
local metaphysical shop, and always
yeah.
get local protection. I don't care if you bring whatever from your neck of the woods. Stuff that's local works on the local spirits, and it will
I
work.
agree 100% with that. I will say that what I used in Salem didn't work in New Orleans. And so I don't know why. So I actually, so I'm good friends with Patty Negri.
Mhm.
Patty has worked with me on this. She's like, I have to basically like she was giving me some pointers to kind of how to deal with New Orleans spirits versus Salem spirits. And I was still affected, but it did work. It did work.
Yeah.
It's definitely there's the voodoo stuff going on. There's a lot of thought form egregore manifestations going on
Yep.
that are not actual human spirits. They're
Yep.
spirits
Right.
that have been created by, and this is the same in Salem too. But do you have to like? Are you dealing with actual human spirits? Or are you dealing with inhuman entities that were created by various people?
Yeah. And you have vampire spirits. One of the locations we're going to ghost hunt has a spirit who in life was a very naughty boy, but did
Yeah.
practice vampire. He was a vampire, blood consuming. Actually, he's not a fan of Father Sebastian, so I can't wait to bring Sebastian there to meet him. But and then he's an energy vampire in death, and so how do you deal with that? And he's not a joke. He's no joke.
And I will say, so when I picked up when I was in New Orleans, I did pick up and kind of like a vampiric energy sucker,
Yep.
parasitic entity that my friend removed. So I had it in the back of my lower stomach. I've been sick. I mean, I've been sick for like a month and a half, and I do feel like that was causing it, and it was removed. I finally I'm better now, but it was like a 2-month process of removing this entity.
Yeah, it can be intense. And so be prepared if you're going to get an education and maybe a little baptism by fire when you get here for people who are coming. This is going to be intense for sure.
Yeah, let me answer at Steven's question. So it's a bird. It's I just decided that I wanted to be a blue-footed booby today, so I was. So it's an actual bird. So but well played, and you're very observant. Thank you for watching.
So do you I know we're almost out of time. Do you want to play our game?
Yeah, what is your game?
It's called it's a version of Would You Rather.
It's called eyebrows. You'll see.
I didn't bring the eyebrows out today. Otherwise, everyone's like, "Oh my God, she's going to ask him the eyebrow
Do it.
question."
I think we just need to ask that one to every guest from here on out.
I will have to. Oh, I could work it in, but I did bring one out that is for Brandon.
Okay.
That you inspired me to bring this one out, for Sam. So here we're going to do the first one. Would you rather have to go through a TSA line before you can get into any bathroom, or I know you travel, have an incurable disease that is slowly turning you into a garden gnome?
Well, I mean, the first option.
TSA?
Nobody wants to be a gnome. It's a hard life.
Yeah.
No TSA pre-check. No.
I would rather do the TSA pre-check, even though that's a pain. Like I do it all the time. But yeah, I don't want to turn into a gnome. However,
nobody.
Yeah. However, my friend Andrew Warburton writes about fairies and gnomes and stuff, and so I do find them interesting.
Fair.
All right, here we go. Would you rather work 9 to 5 as a human table, or ride Peter Dinklage down a sled, like a sled down an extremely steep mountain?
Oh, good one.
I would rather ride Peter Dinklage down
as a sled,
a mountain. Yeah,
that's kind of where I'm at too. Because I mean,
yeah,
that's like a once in a lifetime thing.
We could add as which character he's played, because that could make it a little spicy too.
Yeah, I mean, I think my favorite character was Game of Thrones, so yeah. I would say his Game of Thrones character. And I forget the name, but I loved him in Game of Thrones.
Me too.
I would have a conversation with him while I was writing him.
Was it Tyrion Lannister?
Yeah,
Tyrion Lannister.
Yeah, that's
Tyrion
right.
Lannister. All right, Tyrion.
And there's another name for a book. I would ask him these questions while I'm writing him.
That's hilarious. All right. Here's the last one. This goes along the lines of the eyebrows, but not the eyebrows, because I can't find the eyebrows. Would you rather be sticky all the time and not know why, or have all of your meals fed to you like you're a baby bird?
I would. That's tough. That's a really tough one.
No.
The idea of being fed like a baby bird is just terrifying to me.
That's kind of frightening, actually. Yeah, I'm thinking about it.
I'd rather be sticky, although I mean I'm kind of sticky anyway, and I'm like, why am I sticky? So I think that I would rather be sticky.
Sticky. All right.
I mean, that makes sense.
Sticky.
And you showed your work getting to your answer. I like how you talked your way through that. I like that. I love it. Did we forget anything? Do we need to plug anything else, Sam?
New Orleans? Yeah, Sam. So what else? How do they book your Math Paracon?
How do they book your?
So go to massparacon.com to purchase tickets. I feel like that we're doing very well. Mass Paracon's doing very well. I know that it's your busy season, Jennifer, with tours and stuff. However, it's a great time to visit Salem because it's at the beginning of the month. So, Brandon, I don't know if you're booked, and I would love for you to go. I mean, it's definitely it is a wonderful event with wonderful people. So,
I'd love to get up there. Well,
me too. I mean, and that's the beginning of October, so it's a little easier. As it gets later in October, it gets to be not at all easy.
Yeah, and it's the beginning of like the fall foliage, so prices are a little high, but it's right at the very beginning before it gets too crazy high. The only time I go to Salem, I used to be a tour guide in Salem. I will not go in October anymore. So the only time I do go, and I feel like I have to go at least one time in October, is the first weekend in October. So a lot of people go to Mass Paracon. They'll go to Salem, including Patty Negri. They'll go on Sunday to visit Salem. They walk down Essex Street and kind of do the haunted happenings in Salem thing.
Gotcha.
Okay, makes sense.
So, Brandon, what are your mind-blowing thoughts to take us out?
Well,
He's got so many. He really does.
Especially with the way that things are.